The thing that we need to talk about here specifically this hour is the future of Justin Fields from The Ohio State University in Chicago. Now, I don't know if you saw this or not, maybe not. Despite the Bears back in the first round trading up to draft Ohio State quarterback Justin Fields at number 11 overall, the Bears are telling anyone that will listen, even those that won't listen to them, that they are going to slow walk this. And they're not going to just throw Justin Fields in right away. Chicago is hell-bent on starting Andy Dalton. Yes, Andy Dalton, the red pea shooter. That's what he is these days at quarterback. And the Bears, multiple people have been saying, hey, this is the way it's going to be. We think not only is Andy Dalton going to start, but Andy Dalton's going to win 10 games this season. He can win 10 games as quarterback of the Bears. All right, so let us discuss. The question, very simple, how do you see the Bears quarterback situation shaken out? So my take on this, you've got Joe Rogan, Missouri Motto, and Oyster. And we will combine all of these things together. Now, first of all right, Andy Dalton, say it with me now, Andy Dalton is the problem. He is not the solution to the problem. He's the problem. Now, the Bears don't realize this, I guess, because they've never had him in their uniform. They will soon figure that out. Dalton was signed in the offseason to fill the void left by Mitch Trubisky, Chicago finding a worse quarterback, if that's possible, than Trubisky, who went off to join the Buffalo Bills to not play unless Josh Allen gets hurt, and then all of Bills Mafia will be throwing tables that are lit on fire at Andy Dalton in effigy. All right, so the Red Rifle, we call him the Red Pea Shooter these days, he was given a brass ring opportunity in Dallas. Every man, woman, and child knows this to be true. And what did he do? He swung and missed, right? He failed to seize the opportunity when Dak Prescott went snap, crackle, pop, and was out for the year. And now Andy Dalton is getting another opportunity that he really does not deserve. The only way Andy Dalton, I've done the math on this, back of the napkin math, the only way Andy Dalton wins 10 games in a Bears uniform is if he plays 2 years in Chicago. There's no way he's winning 10 games in 1 year. Now, the Bears executives, the guys that are sending this message out, and there are apparently more than one coach and an executive that are saying that the Bears can win 10 games with Andy Dalton. They really believe that. These executives are hanging out deep in the Amazon. They're in the jungles of the Amazon with Joe Rogan smoking ayahuasca is what they're doing if they truly believe that. Because this, I don't know, if not ayahuasca, they're smoking the good stuff, right? This is a trip to the Devil's Sea. Which Chicago knows all about. It's a dead-end street. Andy Dalton turns 34 years old just before Halloween. He has gotten progressively worse year by year, a little bit worse year by year. I mean, the thing about Andy Dalton, no matter how bad it gets, and I was an Andy Dalton believer last year, and I got burned. And I still heard, even this offseason, I heard people around the Patriots like, well, maybe they should sign Andy Dalton. And no, Cam Newton and Andy Dalton are interchangeable. But Andy Dalton, the last 3 years, 51 touchdowns, 33 interceptions. He's averaged 6.7 yards per attempt. His average quarterback rating is 84.1. Bad to the bone. Bad to the bone. It is an untenable situation. And here are the Bears saying this guy's going to win 10 games. This guy's going to win 10 games. Yeah. On what planet? What parallel dimension? This is the Twilight Zone. If he wins 10 games. Now, furthermore, we also keep hearing that Chicago is planning on having Andy Dalton groom Justin Fields for this year, and then he will take over as the full-time starter in 2022. Now, why would you not want to have Andy Dalton groom Justin Fields, right? They want this to be similar to what they had in Kansas City with Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes in 2017. See, even I think that's bullcrap because the Chiefs missed a year of Mahomes. If they had Mahomes has it. He has the it factor, as those hokey guys like to say on the radio, and I think he would have been fine if they played him right away. They didn't do that. And if Justin Fields can play, you play the guy. I say phooey to mentorships and standing on the sidelines. If I had hope in one hand, and poop in the other, guess which one would be full, right? You hope that Andy Dalton's going to win 10 games. You hope that Andy Dalton's going to groom Justin Fields. I say sink or swim. I've said this for years. I believe in that. On the job training. And every time it works out where a player doesn't play right away, doesn't mean it wouldn't have worked out if the player had played. Like if Mahomes had played, for example, in Kansas City right away and they'd gotten rid of Alex Smith, are you 100% sure that Mahomes would have been terrible? I look at the Giants and Daniel Jones in that situation, and he was on the bench. He was holding back a little bit. They held him back and played Elijah Manning, and Daniel Jones blows. Why is that? I mean, he didn't immediately start from day one. Why is that? What's going on there? And the answer, as we said, is just put Justin Fields out there as a default position. We are generally not high on Ohio State quarterbacks, but this could be the one exception to the rule. We have hijacked the Missouri motto. We're in a show me state of mind here when it comes to Ohio State quarterbacks in the NFL. And the straw that broke the camel's back for me was Dwayne Haskins, the last Buckeye who burned us, right? And they have consistently been not heroes, they've been zeros, Ohio State quarterbacks in the NFL. And this guy, Justin Fields, he has the skill set to be good. The building blocks are there for a solid NFL career, regardless, just because you have the repertoire. All right? That's one thing. It's not the only thing. And we have seen plenty who have been on the road to greatness, and the pathway, the side of the pathway, it's like, climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, right? There's all these, broken dreams and broken hearts and dead bodies along the way, because having the acumen to play in the NFL does not mean that you have the gumption to get it done. And players dubbed cornerstones who end up completely flummoxed. It happens all the time. But I'm a believer that you get that out of the way and you figure out whether those are growing pains or whether this guy just sucks, right? And that whole advantage that you have is the rookie contract where you don't have to give the silly money out and you play the guy sooner. You reap the benefits of that. It's like finding out whether you have a diamond or a cubic zirconia. Which one do you have? You don't know until you put the person out there to play. You don't learn by holding the clipboard and wearing the cap. Now, last thing here. We had said in a previous episode of the show that the Chicago Bears quarterback room is kind of like the Bermuda Triangle. Doesn't seem like it being in the Midwest, upper Midwestern Chicago, Lake Michigan. But the Bears quarterback room is like the Bermuda Triangle. They've got a jigsaw puzzle, and they keep missing the piece under center. And I saw a great stat. I read a great stat the other day that there have been 136 30 passing touchdown seasons in NFL history. 136. There have been 198 4,000-yard passing seasons in NFL history. And nobody wearing a Bears uniform playing quarterback has achieved either of those statistical milestones in the history of the Bears. All right, the monsters of the Midway, they ain't monsters at the quarterback position. So that's the bar. The bar's not very high for Justin Fields walking in there. And we do know that the GM Ryan Pace and the coach Matt Nagy are on borrowed time. That much we know. Right? And it's one of the great quotes by Oscar Wilde. He wrote years ago, "The world was their oyster, but they have used the wrong fork." And that is the Ryan Pace, Matt Nagy regime in the Windy City. When double doink was the high water mark of Bears football in recent years, you know you're not doing something right. They've been treading water. They're not terrible, but they're treading water in the kiddie pool of the NFL, right? Back-to-back 8-8 seasons, and both Pace and Nagy, they must have pictures of someone in ownership in compromising positions that they have continued on here. I thought they were going to clean house in Chicago this year, and Andy Dalton guarantees a swift departure. At least if you play Justin Fields, you have a shot of catching lightning in a bottle, getting some beginner's luck, and at least have something to look forward to. But that's up to the Bears, and if you believe what they're saying right now, that's not going to happen.